We all learn and grow the best through practice. When it comes to teaching others, whether you're in front of a classroom, auditorium, one-on-one, or with a group, growth begins when they start to do it. Welcome to the Drew Coaching Podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 2. We learn by practicing. And we're focused on trying a new process for practice. Drew Coaching is a community of leaders and creatives who are shaping the future. My name is Eric Drew, and I'm so glad you're here with us this week. This season is all about raising up new leaders and the leadership of others. So each week, in 10 minutes or less, we're learning something related to teaching, mentoring, and coaching. If you're new to the podcast, thanks for joining us. Welcome. This season, we have more people joining us on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you for sharing with others in your sphere of influence. You can find all of the show notes right at drewcoaching.online. If you want to follow up, or there's also an outline of the content, episode content and questions. I share more on TikTok and Instagram. I'd love to connect with you there. It's exciting to see our community grow and invest in the leadership of others. Thank you. So let's dive into this week's content. Our growth focus for this week is try a new process for practice. Now, I'm sure you've heard all of the mantras about practice. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. To become an expert, you need to practice for at least 10,000 hours. Now, I think there's a lot of truth in many of these things. But in all my thinking about practicing and all my practicing, I've had this very important shift in my thinking these days. Others get better by practicing too. The best way to achieve your goals, your hopes, your dreams is through teaching, mentoring, and coaching others. Last week, we grew by focusing on strengths. And so this week, as you're working with others, no matter whether you're working with a big group or a small group or one-on-one, I want you to try a new process for practice. Now, it's a little tricky because it's easier just to show others how to do it or to do it for them. And there's a place for modeling and showing how something might be done. But if you want others to grow, you have to let them practice and do it. So here's a new process for practice that I want you to try. I'm also going to give you a few examples. The first step is to ask, what is important here? Before trying whatever they're going to do, help learners focus their attention on the growth that they want by asking what it is first. Even if you've already done some teaching or provided some feedback, before this next try, let others define what is most important for themselves. Step 2, shut up and let them do it. This is a hard part because I like to continue talking, explaining, or doing it myself. But once they've clarified what's important this next try, it's all about Nike. Just do it. Step 3, ask, what did you learn this time? Okay, this part is kind of hard too because I want to jump in and evaluate or provide feedback immediately. But the coach approach tells us that growth and transformation happen through self-discovery and reflection. Before you jump in, let the person reflect on how they did. Finally, step 4, give concise feedback. After they do the work of the first 3 steps, we can jump in. You've probably heard about the feedback sandwich where you give one praise, one improvement, and then you end with something positive. Sometimes this works. I would focus on feedback on 2 things. What did they do well that they would want to keep doing? And what are 1 or maybe 2 areas for improvement? By the way, the process of practice is cyclical. So once you do step 4, go back to step 1. After your short, concise feedback, ask them, so what's important here? You could ask this next try or kind of whatever's appropriate for the setting. But again, before each practice attempt, let the learner focus themselves on what's important. So let's think through a few examples here. Let's say you're teaching a student one-on-one a musical instrument. It might look like this. You're working on learning the melody to a new song. After they have a sense for the notes and the rhythm, step 1. Ask, what is important here? This time it could be getting the rhythm right, playing all the right notes, playing with more emotion. Let them choose based on what they're learning and the focus of the lesson. Then, step 2, shut up and let them do it. Then, before you jump in with your commentary, ask step 3. Ask, what did you learn this time? Doesn't have to be exactly that. You might ask, so how'd you do? Or that was different, how did that go? The goal here in step 3 is for them to reflect and do some self-discovery. Finally, step 4, step in and give concise feedback. It might be, you played all of the right notes, but the rhythm was a little bit off. These 3 notes were too fast. Then, start the cycle again. Here's another example. You're teaching a basketball team with 8 players to improve their free throw shooting. After giving the whole team some tips and best practices, you have the first player step up to the free throw line. First, step 1, ask them, what's most important here? Let them name it for themselves. Step 2, shut up and let them do it. You might let them take 1 shot or maybe 2 or 5 shots so they get some good reps in practicing. Step 3, ask, what did you learn this time? They share what they noticed, did well, or hope to improve. You might ask some follow-up questions to help them be more specific about their learnings. And then finally, step 4, give concise feedback. You, maybe the other team members, might share about their form, technique, process, or other things you noticed that they'd want to keep trying or maybe do differently. You might have each player go through 2 rounds of practice together, or have each player take 1 practice round and then take another turn. You can adapt the process to fit the team the best. Last example. Your division of 30 people at work is at a monthly 2-hour training to improve in their value of great customer service. It's a classroom setting. After an introduction to why this value is important and 1 or 2 actions that everyone can take to demonstrate this value, you bring 2 people up to the front of the room to model and practice. They're going to pretend that they're on the phone with an unsatisfied customer. Before they start, you ask the person who'll be the team member answering the phone, what's important here? They give themselves the focus. Next, you let them do it. Wow, that might have gotten interesting. You make a mental note that if the people who are calling are that nasty to your team members, you really should go out of your way to do something nice for them soon. After they finish the practice session, you ask, what did you learn this time? In a classroom setting, you can also ask the whole class what they learned by watching a demonstration or for them to give feedback, and then you can also give concise feedback. Now, I know that these examples are coming from the teacher's point of view, but you actually don't have to be the teacher to work this process with someone else. If you see another person on your team or in your community struggling or trying to improve, or doing something over and over and over again and trying to make it better, you can use the same 4 steps. Step 1, ask, what is important here? Step 2, shut up, let them do it. Step 3, ask, what did you learn this time? And finally, step 4, give concise feedback. So this week, I wanted you to try a new process for practice. This can be in formal settings or informal settings. This can be adapted for individuals or teams. Work these 4 steps to allow others to practice, and I bet you'll be surprised at their improvement. Here are 3 quick questions as you go. First, how do you usually engage with others so that they improve? Which of these steps will be the most important for you to try? And I wonder, are there 1 or 2 people you'll have the chance to help by supporting them to practice this week? You can find the whole process and these questions in the show notes. That's at drewcoaching.online. I'd also love to see you on Instagram or TikTok as we dive in deeper. Hey, I'm grateful for your commitment to grow your leadership and creativity, to shape the future, to grow the leadership of those around you. Thanks for journeying with us. So as you practice a new process for practice this week, remember, you're a leader, you're creative. The world needs your voice. So try a new process for practice. Raise up others, bring hope to life. We're in this together.